Is what it was, what it shall be. We're back again. Today's video is called Spirit War Bootcamp number 96, and this is entitled White Pilled Meme Lord Initiation. So how's everyone doing? Of course, we're continuing on from our previous video. We're talking about the white pill, the optimistic worldview that allows us to have optimistic projections of the future and to formulate optimistic strategies for benefit of the self and others. And so now, what is a meme lord? So a meme lord is a master of memetic sciences. What are memetic sciences? Well, in my terminology, memes are the building blocks of ideology, right? And since I consider myself philosophically to be an idealist, which is the opposite of a materialist, right? So the view that I have is that to understand the world and to engage effectively with it, you need to focus on energy and information. So memes being one example of sort of syntactic unit that's composed of information, right? And so if you want to be a meme lord and you want to engage in memetic sciences, it's all about information and understanding that. And, this is why people like Robert Maxwell and Ghislaine Maxwell want to monopolize the textbook industry and the scientific publishing industry. This is what a meme lord would do, right? This is a meme lord maneuver, right? To control information. More powerful than guns, more powerful than bombs, more powerful than even banks, right? That's how I think it goes in the hierarchy. Weapons are on the bottom. Financial institutions are in the middle. Information control is at the top, right? And so that's why I choose to engage with memetic sciences. And that's why I'm a philosophical idealist. And I'll give an example of why idealism is primary. Like, I'm sitting in this field right here, and there's all kinds of plants around me, right? So to me, like when I look down at the ground and I see red clover, I'm like, boom, food, medicine. My brain categorizes that information hologram of a flower and a leaf. It categorizes that in the category of food and medicine, right? Whereas a normal person would consider that, they would label it most often as a weed, right? So this is a nuisance to them. They perceive it as a nuisance. And so then they formulate actions and strategies in accordance with that categorization. So they'll spray some glyphosate or Roundup on their yard to get rid of that, right? But to me, since I've memetically categorized that information hologram in the food and medicine category, I will take opposite types of actions. Like I will ingest it as a food and a medicine. I'll brew it. I'll steep it in hot water and I'll drink it to purify my blood and to provide vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E to my body, right? And to clean out my blood, a good heart medicine, right? So that shows you how taking the same outer material object, right? So a materialist, these two people would be looking at the exact same material item, but due to the intervening thing of memetics, right? For me, that unlocks a benefit that other materialists will not have, right? And in fact, they'll expend energy and time trying to eradicate something that to me is of benefit, right? So see how this works. Now let's go and take it and extrapolate that into the geopolitical domain, right? The number one example of memes are religions, okay? Because religions control billions of people worldwide. People are willing to live and die over memetics in terms of these religions, right? And that's why, you see people trying to take over this Christian Zionist movement, right, in the United States as a political maneuver, right? Because they want to control the memetics. They want to, someone came up with the phrase, control the memes of production, right? So by controlling the memetics of, however many 200, 300 million people in the United States, they control their behavior. And so you could think from a resource efficiency point of view, like a meme lord, if you can control people's behavior with just information monopoly, you don't have to spend so much money on weapons and guns and trying to logistically come up with all these different strategies or how to build nuclear bombs or how to mine metals to make tanks and all. You're saving yourself tons and tons of energy, right? And so that's why you want to have McGraw-Hill textbook company owned by Pergamon Press, owned by Robert Maxwell, right? The spy chief of the Mossad / MI6, right? So Now, how do we get a meme lord initiation and a white pilled meme lord initiation in particular? Well, the first part is what I've been doing already is I'm trying to define the terms and I'm trying to define the operating scope of meme lord kind of conduct of memetic warfare, right? And we can see that we're on the field of memetic warfare. We're preceded by these very powerful people like the U.S. Defense Department publishing various papers about memetic warfare, right? And our textbook publishing companies, right? And all these different people, they're already on the field. And of course, Zuckerberg and Eric Schmidt from Google and all these guys, they're on the meme lord playing field as well. But the great thing, as I've alluded to in the recent videos, is that they don't have any privileged access to memetic sciences, and that's why I'm doing a meme lord initiation. I'm trying to awaken people and emphasize the importance of this domain of conduct, right? Now, let's explain why white pill is an important part of the equation, and I've been putting this in the title. I think this is my third video now with a white pill in the title, and I'm probably going to keep doing more because I think this is a big area that people need right now. So why white pilled? Well, again, if you're black pilled or even if you're red pilled or blue pilled, right? The way that you conceptualize the battlefield is different depending on your worldview, right? And this is the core of understanding idealism and memetic warfare, is that your memes determine your conduct. They determine all your strategies and they circumscribe all your scope of action, right? Because they're telling you through memetics internally, you're categorizing the outer world into different things that are relevant, irrelevant, critical, bland and neutral and so on. So your memes determine the scope of your conduct and all your strategies and actions, right? So if you're white pilled, if you're in a memetic white pilled configuration, right? You believe in yourself and you think, yeah, the world is a beautiful experiment. It's a beautiful mystery. Nothing's predetermined. And the white pilled joy is that there's no upper limit to everything. And there's no privileged elite that has access to shit that we can't do, right? And furthermore, if you want to get really, really white pilled, you think about the fact that in order to get people into the black pilled, evilarchy cult of the Illuminati or the US military or whatever you want to say, it takes a lot of coercion. It takes a lot of conditioning. It takes a lot of trauma induction, trauma-based mind control. It takes tons and tons of resources, whereas the white pill is supremely resource efficient, right? Because nothing animates us more than joy. Nothing animates us more than optimism. It makes everything super easy, and it's easy to recruit. That's why I think white pill meme lords are highly favored in the dynamic. They're gonna win, right? Because they don't have to expend all this energy. The white pilled meme lord is supremely seductive, right? It's like you're going to have to bat away people from the meme lord recreations. You're going to have to try and keep them at bay and limit and probably even conceal what you're doing because it's so appealing that it's just going to suck in everybody, right? Because you're in the bliss domain. You're white pilled meme lords in the ideology is under the impression that, first of all, the fundamental nature of reality is bliss, just as the Buddha taught. We're existing in a blissful reality, okay? Potentially. That's the true nature of reality. The problem is everyone's got blinders on. They're existing in duality mode. They're existing in what we call dukkha, or unsatisfactoriness, right? Because there's a disconnect between their worldview assumptions of delusional materialism versus the truth. So no matter how many actions they undertake in the delusional worldview to try and produce their own pleasure, they have a fundamental ignorance of the nature of their own being and of the nature of the external world. And so they're spinning in thought loops constantly because the actions that they undertake and the strategies that they undertake don't produce the result of bliss. So, and they just get more and more frustrated, but they don't fundamentally alter their own ignorance in order to exist in the bliss mode of the white pill reality, right? And so, like I was alluding to in the previous videos, I was talking about the contrarian nature of the white pill, how the majority, okay, so let's say you're the evilarchy, right? You want to demoralize the masses. You want to demoralize your enemy and make them think that there's no hope, right? And that's why over the past maybe 2 or 3 years, I've started realizing most of the people that I thought were these, grassroots, organizers or like alternative media, so-called, they're actually the opposite. They're actually here to divide and demoralize. I'm not going to name names, but almost everybody who's super prominent in the field, they're here to demoralize and to divide. Us versus them kind of mentality. So how does that contrast with the white pill? Well, the white pill is like everything's interconnected. There's no separation between inner and outer. There's no reality of unchangeable good and evil, right? Everything's part of the same whole, right? And good and evil distinctions exist only in a relative degree. You know, they're not absolutes. They exist in a relative degree. So if you define yourself as good, anybody that works against you is evil, right? Like to a worm, the hawk is evil, or to a field mouse, the hawk is evil, and it's good. To the hawk, the field mouse is food. It probably doesn't even think of it as good or evil. It's like yummy food, right? So you can see it's a relative. So you're looking at, like I said, the example of the clover blossom too. You're looking at the same outer object, but depending on context and relativism, it gets defined in different ways. So the white pill mentality, right? They're not in this adversarial mindset. They look at everything as blissful. Like when they look at the outer world and see all this chaotic, evil shit going on, they're like, wow, how dramatic, right? They're not like, oh, that's terrible. And they're not also like, ooh, sexy. Like they're like, oh, how dramatic. Wow, look at all these delusions that are going on. The evil arcs are in their state of delusion, and the victim mentality, other people are in their own state of delusion. And often it's the dark memelords that are creating victim mentality, and they're victims, right? So the victims think that that's just the reality. They think, oh no, the world is a vampire. The world is a kill or be killed, dog eat dog, right? Because that's the mentality that they've been given, that they've had installed into them by their overlords, okay? And so why propagate that? You know, I see people out there who have the first piece of the equation. Like they're not in the white pill meme lord category, but they understand that memetic sciences are important. They're out here trying to do decodes and everything. But in their decodes, they're telling you like, oh, there's no hope to defeat the enemy. But yet they're constantly obsessively focusing on all the evil shit that the enemy's doing. So they're voluntarily putting all their time and energy into what they have themselves defined as an unwinnable game. That sounds like hell. To me, that's the definition of hell. The only thing that could be more hellish than that is trying to propagate that ideology out onto other people. Very bad, because now you're multiplying. That creates karma, right? There's always consequences to every action. So if you're out there propagating black-pilled reality of doom, right? Like there's consequences for that, you know? And I'm not here to tell anybody what to do or what not to do. I'm just saying maybe like consider alternatives to that worldview, right? So, you know, like for example, okay, let's say that, you know, you're focusing on the reality that we're looking at with all the Epstein files and stuff like that. We're global human trafficking, global child trafficking, right? That's terrible. Of course, no one wants to be a part of that, right? But this is ideological, right? Because to the extent that, you know, okay, so let's say you take the premise that, oh yeah, our government is completely infested with child trafficking pedophiles, right? Well, why is that important to you? Why are you dependent upon the government? Why does the government's conduct like make your life good or bad, right? It's because you believe in the government. You have faith in the power, the faith and credit of the government, that they have power over your existence and whether you live and die. And to the extent that you believe in that, it becomes reality, right? But I could guarantee you, let's say there's 200 to 300 million people in the United States. So that, to me, in my life experience, I know that there's millions and millions of people in the United States that don't have any interface with the government whatsoever, okay? They grow their own food. I know plenty of people that are good friends of mine that live in such a way, they got some chickens, you know, or they got ducks, or they got whatever. They got livestock and they got crops, and maybe they go into town a couple times, 2 or 3 times a year for fun, to socialize, right? They don't have to interface with the government to any significant degree whatsoever. They don't, and so the reality of government abuse for them is very low. You know, like, yeah, I'm not saying they don't believe that it's happening, but the impact upon their daily life and their emotional state and their physical health and their intelligence and so on, by all that, is nearly zero. right? And you could extrapolate the same thing to the planet as a whole, right? This is the reality. So to define the absolute state of Earth as a hell realm or some kind of prison planet or some kind of government hell trap, like, I'm not saying that's false. I'm saying that's a relativistic construct that you can opt in or out of, right? And I'm not saying that opting out of that is necessarily easy for people, because they have a lot of faith. They place a lot of faith. They've placed a lot of psychic energy. They've placed a lot of their life, their time and actions and their belief system have caused them to invest tons of emotional and psychic energy into the construct of having faith in that reality, right? And so to extract themselves from that is is subsequently going to require effort, and it's not, they're going to be in this liminal state of like indeterminacy between being in the system and being out of the system. And so for every step they take that tries to move them out of the system, there's going to be this lingering belief in the reality of that system. And so there's going to be this uncertainty and anxiety, right? But it's not absolute. You're not trapped. There's no shackles around you that's binding you to all that shit. It's ideological, okay? This is what I'm trying to explain. So for people that have already accepted the memetic nature of reality, that the world is built on memes, that all political power doesn't come out of the barrel of a gun, like Mao said, that comes from signs and symbols. It comes from faith, belief, and human attention, right? So this is the battleground. That's the real battleground. So for the black-pilled meme lords that are in that battleground, I'm just saying, consider the possibility that you're opting into that on a day-to-day basis, right? And as I've already said in my previous videos, like, I recognize the importance of studying the adversary. Like, I really do. But to what extent are you opting in to their worldview that they've created for you of the victim mentality or the rebel, right? The rebel divide and conquer, divide and rule, just like the Masonic square and compass, the divider and the ruler, right? That's their system. You don't have to opt into that and define yourself in counterpoint to that. And to always think that you got to be pushing and putting all this energy against that. That's what they want. That's how they harvest energy from you. That's how they Charlie Kirk you, or that's how they Antifa and ice versus ice you, right? How they put you on ice, or how they shoot you in the face in public because you chose to opt in and be part of the quote resistance against that, right? What if there's a third way? What if there's a zero-sum game that's outside of that, completely distinct from that? And I think there is. So now let's talk about the meme lord, white-pilled meme lord initiation. What is that? That's where you start using constructive, creative memetics. And this is the great things about memetics, is that memes become raw materials, right? You can meme Donald Trump. You can meme Hillary Clinton. And within the context of your own memetic aggregations, like, you could define them however you want. You could make them comical. You could make them super powerful, demonic. Like, you can make them whatever you want. I recommend the comical route, or the irrelevancy route, or just the ridicule route, because that drains their power and influence away, right? But my point is to say, you can construct a meme, right? You could construct a meme of yourself as a white-pilled meme lord. So what would that look like, right? That's where you take as your basic assumption the concept of total freedom. You take as your basic assumption the concept that you have creative power, that you can write your own script. Why, people assume that living in the matrix is a bad thing. Well, what if you have the source code, right? What if you can sculpt and design the matrix as your personal playground? To me, I believe that this is the reality. And I've engaged in this kind of stuff before, right? Using online means, right? You engage in memetic warfare. Like, you create a meme and you get people to opt into this blissful white-pilled meme. And you're like, hey, look at this blissful reality that we can create. And then you structurally build your meme, right? And you can share it. And like I say, human attention is the real currency of magic. And that's the true building block of our reality, right? So if you can cooperate, right, and get other meme lords to add energy and add attention into your memetic warfare, it just builds and builds in power. And as I said before, unlike the dark meme lords of the enemy, right, we don't have to use trauma-based mind control to coerce and deceive and compel other people to participate. our shit is fucking seductive. It's super sexy. It's freedom. It's bliss all the way, right? So if you use that as the basis for constructing your memes of humor, beauty, bliss, freedom, all these things, personal sovereignty, how much more powerful is a collective of sovereign free souls running on bliss, getting total motivation, getting total guidance, getting total cooperative participation with reality, not seeing as reality as something to be subjugated and controlled and hive minded into some fucking AI doom trip, right? That's so effortful. It's so intense of effort. And it fundamentally exteriorizes the thing that you're trying to influence and control rather than seeing it as a part of yourself, right? So these are the building blocks of the mimetic white pill that we're trying to get into, right? So use your God-given creativity. Use the weapons of your enemy. Use the mimetic building blocks that are being put out there by multi-billionaire companies, right? Use Luke Skywalker, use Superman, use Jesus, use whatever you want. Use these ancient memes that have been around for thousands of fucking years and have centuries worth of accumulated psychic energy and attention. Use them as building blocks. You make them fight each other for you to build the world that you want, right? Create your own dialectic, create your own system of mimetic bliss generation. And it's the thing is about memes is they take on a life of their own, just like the Tibetan idea of a tulpa. Like if you feed them and you make them appealing and compelling, other people will start feeding them and they'll grow. They'll take on a life of their own and they'll carry out their operations in distinction to whatever you want to do, right? So that's why I'm saying, like, this is my message to the black pilled meme lords, of which I was one for many decades. And I'm not saying that I'm completely separated from that even now, but I'm saying, like, I'm choosing the white pilled meme lord lifestyle. And so here's my message to those people is that basically, the same power that you're putting into quote unquote fighting the evil archy or exposing them, right? That energy actually is strengthening what you're calling your adversaries. You're strengthening them. You're creating a meme in which those people are all powerful or all pure evil or all whatever. You're memetically opting in to their dynamic that places them at the pinnacle of relevance, that places them where everyone else is trying to focus energy on that. You know what I mean? So be conscious, be aware of that. And number two thing that I want to tell the black pilled meme lords, right? So the people out there that are all studying stuff like aliens, right? Or stuff, even the stuff that I've been putting out, dealing with remote viewing and all these psychical research programs, right? People look out there and they see whatever, whoever their, UFO hero is, whether it's Lou Elizondo or fucking, any of these fucktards, Stephen Greer, whatever, any of the politicians that are out there fronting and posing and prancing around about all this UFO shit. They all have an agenda, okay? And they all come from the same subset of military industrial contractors, okay? Same thing that applies to all the remote viewing stuff and all these guys. They're all military contractors, straight up. And to the extent, like, you could go look at any of the major podcasters like Joe Rogan or Danny Jones, right? How come every single guest Danny Jones has on his fucking show, same with Joe Rogan, they're either CIA, former military, former SAP contractors, or some kind of occultists that are in some occult group? Why is every single guest fall in that same exact rubric? And yet people still have this concept that, they're neutral. They're helping us. They're helping awaken the masses and they're breaking down the code. Okay, well, also, how come they all are on the same payroll? And how come they all are telling you the same exact story? Believe in aliens so we can get more money for SpaceX, or so we can build super robots and clones to fight the evil aliens, right? How come all science fiction comes directly out of U.S. Navy or other defense contractors and former military is the only chosen ones that get to win the Hugo Nebula Award and stuff like that? Why are a lot of them mind-controlled multiples? Why, and all the alien shit's same. Why is everybody that's out there talking that? They're directly boosting the budget of the military, okay? And also creating a fear mentality, creating a mentality that there's this mysterious higher power out there that we could never, ever defeat, right? To me, this is not empowerment at all. This is the psyop of all psyops. Nothing is a bigger psyop. The only thing that even comes close in terms of psyops is like religion. You know, space psyop is like the number two in my opinion. All the sci-fi space shit, that's complete bullshit. There's literally zero information out there anywhere about space and planets and all that doesn't directly come from the military or high-level government multi-billion-dollar projects, right? That's the great thing about science is they can have CERN, right? They have all these multi-billion-dollar instruments that you don't have access to, and so you have to believe whatever they say about it, according to them, according to their delusional materialist paradigm, right? That's a bad sign. As a memetic warrior, right? I look at that and I'm seeing like, okay, that's information monopoly they have there. And what they're giving you is a problematic data set. Now, what do I mean by that? Problematic data set. It doesn't mean that it's false, right? Because if they were lying and everything they were saying to you is completely false, there would be no compelling quality to it. So they have to create gray propaganda. They have to create truth and falsehood. You have to dangle this little carrot of mystery in front of you and be like, don't you want to know about this? Ooh, look how sexy and seductive and how mysterious it all is. Like, don't you want more information? Oh, maybe if you join our secret society, or maybe if you become one of us and get our, Elon Musk, SpaceX funding and join the military, like now you'll get special access to this information, right? It's not how reality works. Like I said, nobody has privileged access to the truth. We all possess psychic faculties to the extent that you believe in your own psychic faculties and spend energy to cultivate and build them and use a scientific method of logic and reason to decode and analyze all information that you come across. I'm not saying to throw out a problematic data set. I'm saying recognize it for what it is. Recognize that it's not black and white. Recognize the emotional states that are created inside you by contemplating the data as presented. Does it disempower you? Problematic, right? Is it all monopolized by a tiny cabal of people that are all on the same team, like Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ and fucking whoever all these fucktards are, Joe McMoneagle and all these guys? They're, if you're to take the diversity of their profiling, these guys are 99% all the same, right? They have the same economic interests. They have the same conditioning, right? Their worldview is conditioned all the same, right? So these are all red flags. If you want to be victorious in the memetic warlord landscape, you need to become proficient in these kinds of things. Analyzing your data sets, recognizing the provenance of your data sets, and most importantly, thinking in terms of cause and effect. Like if you adopt the paradigm that you're being presented, what's the effect of that, right? Does it make you physically stronger? Does it make you optimistic? Does it make you enthusiastic about pursuing constructive goals? Does it strengthen your own sense of agency, sovereignty, creativity, and empowerment, or not? Does it externalize everything and put the power structure somewhere external to you in this mysterious special access program behind the lines of their secret society cult, right? And, is it fundamentally materialistic? That's an important thing to think about. Is it trying to recontextualizing everything in terms of quote unquote experts, right? These are all very, very important things. And the truth of memetic warfare and the white-pilled meme lord initiation is all the opposite of that. It's supremely empowering. It's supremely blissful. It attracts cooperation. It's not restricting access. It's not putting a power pyramid. It's upside down pyramid, right? It's like the peak is at the top. The masses are at the top of this inverted pyramid, right? So it's like we all have equal access to the power, right? We all have equal access to the playing field and the theater of operations of the memetic sciences. And the more free we are, the more joyful we are, the more creativity we possess, the more powerful our memes will become. It's a merit-based system. It's a meritocracy. It's not a hierarchy in that sense. So these are all important things. And like I said, this is barely scratching the surface of what I'm trying to get into. There's something that I've been involved in for decades, and I've gotten real world practical results. And in the future, I'll get into some more details upon that, and I'll show you some basic templating of how to construct memetic operations and how to yield results. And we can even do experimental study and watch the results unfold in real time. But anyway, so this is our next installment, Spirit War number 96, and this one is entitled White-Pilled Meme Lord Initiation. More to come.